We're going to take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner. I got to go bold, right? I got to go bold for this.
Yeah, she's got some nice long
Welcome
hair.
back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're out there on YouTube. And also, always rate the show 5 stars. What is going on, Bears fans? Happy Friday. Couple days late with the show. I had a wedding anniversary, so had a couple things that I had to stay with. But we got this on Friday. We're going to be breaking down Bears, Packers. Taco Man, what is good, my friend? Hope you are doing well. How we feeling? It's Packer week, and we had a lot of stuff going on. So we have a lot to cover, not just the Packer game. I want to talk a little bit about the new OC and what the Bears were doing, because I have not yet talked about this on this show. So let's get into it, right? I'll unwind a little bit, and we can break this down. So first question that I have for everyone that is watching: what do we feel? How do we feel about this whole Thomas Brown being brought in as the OC? Because I have a couple different thoughts on this. And like, I know I kind of mentioned that to me, I felt like when we were doing the All 22 review, I brought this up, but haven't actually said this on the show. To me, the thing that needed to happen when you look at the Bears team, there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of problems that are out there. And with even like the real world, in the real world, when you need to ask yourself, what is the problem that we need to solve? And to me, the biggest problem that we have right now was the morale of the team. It's the morale of the team, everybody trying to fight together. Because here's the thing, if you are telling someone who does not want to work for your company, does not want to play with you, that they need to be better, what are they going to tell you? If they gave up, what would they tell you? They'd be like, they just give you a shrug and not want to do anything because they don't want to be there. So to me, it's that morale, it's the atmosphere of this entire situation. But where does that, so who was the problem? And that's where to me, the problem was with Matt Eberflus, was with Shane Waldron. And to me, I'm not a big fire everybody, fire all this stuff, but to me, I felt like it was the right choice to fire Waldron and Matt Eberflus to show accountability and just try and salvage this year, because you already know what's going to happen. But clearly, this move just shows that, hey, they're not going to fire Matt Eberflus. It just kind of confirms they will not fire Matt Eberflus. They will not do anything with that. It just further confirms this. So, if the hand, for some odd reason, if you have to keep Matt Eberflus, I do think that this was the best option. As long as you had to keep Matt Eberflus. I think the best option would have been to fire both. But this is to me, this is a consolation prize, because the Bears organization is weird and they don't actually want to fire the head coach. But to me, the thing that I think actually, it's up and down, because like what Taco Man said, it's not too good, right? Like, we'll see what ends up happening with this, but Thomas Brown, a little bit about him. He was a former assistant head coach after 1 year underneath Sean McVay, and also then moves up and goes over to offensive coordinator over for the Panthers. And then we did not see good production out of the Panthers. And one could say, well, maybe it was because they tried to do this whole brain trust thing and it did not work. And ultimately his time at the Panthers just it was not good. It was not great. But still, at the end of the day, he was voted the second favorite offensive coordinator in the entire league. And I think if you're looking for signs of optimism and signs of pessimism, right? Signs of pessimism point to, well, hey, his offense wasn't good. But the signs of optimism is that, hey, he's someone that the players really respect. And we talk about morale being such a big key piece that the Bears have to be addressing and the Bears have to get right now. So I do think that if anyone needs to come in, he's a good person for that. Because also, now all these stories about Shane Waldron not holding people accountable, not having tough practices are coming out as well. So ultimately, I think that this was for the better. It's for the better. I still felt the best option would have been to fire both, but ultimately this is the consolation prize because Bears management never wants to fire an actual head coach. So with this, this is what we get. So hopefully we can see something. Hopefully we can start to see the writing of the ship this week versus the Green Bay Packers. And Reload, what's good? Hope you've been well. Reload asking, would you like Ben Johnson? I would. And actually, speaking of Ben Johnson, this is another piece too. And this kind of goes to how not a lot of people, like a lot of times coaches, it's not the top person who's the option that is the best option, so to speak. Similar to like quarterbacks, where it's still a crapshoot, but sometimes, the best one is actually really good. Ben Johnson was not the original offensive coordinator for the Lions. And they had Anthony Lynn. Ultimately, they move on from him and then they elevate Ben Johnson. And ultimately, now Ben Johnson is the hottest head coach candidate that's out there. Not saying that that's all of a sudden what Thomas Brown's going to do, but it's at least gives you some of the hope because, hey, he's getting another chance. The players really respect him. The players really like him. So hopefully we can at least, all I'm hoping for is just a competent offense because what we've been trotting out has not been competent. But yeah, Ben Johnson is definitely top of the list if and when Matt Eberflus is fired. But we'll see what ends up happening. Taco Man saying those plays and concepts look familiar to Waldron. That's the other thing too. He understands Shane Waldron's system. He's out there and nothing's going to be too crazy and too different. But hopefully then we have a more consistent game plan because a lot of what the Bears players were talking about is they just simply want to have a consistent game plan. They just simply want to have something that like resembles, hey, the times of plays of when they call it, where they call it. They felt like they had a better understanding of that than Shane ultimately ended up having. But we'll break down the offense a little bit more, but let's talk about some of the injuries that are out there because injuries for the Bears, I guess you could say some optimism because the biggest optimistic thing is full participants for both Darnell Wright, Darrell Taylor, Braxton Jones, and also Noah Sewell. So you get your offensive tackles back, and also Darrell Taylor will be back as well. So that is definitely a good feeling. Montez Sweat, full participant today as well. Still listed as questionable, but had limited on Thursday, but did not participate on Wednesday. And Tarvarius Moore, full participant on Friday and questionable. And why is the backup safety someone that we actually need to talk about? Well, ultimately, Tarvarius Moore is backup safety. And with Jaquan Brisker going on IR, now we have Elijah Hicks that's out there. And quite frankly, Elijah Hicks has been playing very well. According to PFF, the 19th highest graded safety so far this year. But Hicks he's been good. He's been solid. He's been filling in very, very well. So kudos goes out to him. And also, Taco Man, no more puddle concepts. So there's a couple concepts out there that Shane Waldron used to do. And you would typically call it a flood concept when you would have 3 people running one side, but not Shane Waldron. He always had 2 people going on one side. We just called it the puddles. We just called it the puddle, just the smaller flood. But also 2 people are out. That is Karan Amagaji and Tevin Jenkins. So we'll break down with Tevin Jenkins, what we're expecting is going to happen is since you have your starting tackles, your tackles will be out there. Ryan Bates will be the starting left guard, and then Pryor will be shifted back over to the right guard position. So ultimately, you're going to have a fairly healthy, I guess you could say, offensive line. It's just unfortunate Tevin has been your most consistent offensive lineman out there, and he won't be there. So also, speaking of offensive line, pour one out for Nate Davis. Nate Davis no longer with the Bears. We were thinking that maybe he might have been traded. Maybe they were trying to shop him. That was at least the rumor that was going on, or at least some different pieces. Ultimately, he's not there. And honestly, this just kind of points to the Bears. Like, they need to do better background checks on people. It's common sense, common knowledge that he did not, common knowledge for people that cover Tennessee, that he didn't like to practice. And then as soon as we sign him, guy doesn't like to practice. And also same thing with Shane Waldron. Shane Waldron, there's all these reports of players now that just did not like him, that weren't on the Bears, but were on the Seahawks. So unfortunately, we need a new HR department is what I'm getting at with the Chicago Bears. But let's also look at the Packers. And the Packers, they have a gross looking injury report. So, that means advantage Bears, of course. But Jair Alexander, limited participant all week, questionable to play. The only other people with designations, Colby Wooden, nothing too crazy there. Evan Williams, their safety that has been a pretty big stud. He was limited all week, someone to just keep an eye out for. And Jordan Morgan, their rookie tackle, out with an injury. And Marshawn Lloyd, their running back who has been on IR, still out with an injury. So ultimately, the Green Bay Packers are coming in, and the Green Bay Packers, as we know, I think that a lot of times we're saying they're not as good. And I hear a lot of shows saying that. They're not as good as they once were. They're still a very good team. They are, according to DVOA, Green Bay is ranked 9th overall based on their own ratings. But from EPA, they have the 8th highest EPA per play on defense. And then their offense has the 3rd most yards in the NFL. So they're a pretty good team, one would say, because they're very well-rounded. Good defense, and their defense has actually been playing great. It's their offense that has not been stepping up the way that we're accustomed to seeing with a Green Bay team. So when we look at the Bears offense and we look at what they can do against this defense, they're stepping up. And for those that are watching my screen right now, you might look at like the PFF grades and go, how are they good? Because what you're seeing is a lot of poorly graded players. But ultimately, this defense is very aggressive. Like I said, they're 8th in EPA per play. Also 12th in overall yards per play yards per game at 320. They are 15th in passing yards at 207. They are 10th in points contributed by their passing defense. So very good from the advanced analytics. 8th in EPA per pass, and 1.11 interceptions per game, which is tied for 7th. When you look at their run defense, 10th rush yards per game, which is 113. They're also 7th best for yards per carry at 4.2, 14th in expected points contributed by the defense, and 8th EPA per rush for this defense. So, like we're saying, this is a very, very good, this is a good defense. Xavier McKinney and Williams, like we talked about, Williams, the rookie out of Oregon State, their safeties have been phenomenal, both with borderline elite grades. McKinney, number 3 safety in the league, according to PFF, and Williams, the 4th highest graded safety in the league at 87.4. But when Jair Alexander's out there, he's still a very good corner, PFF's 14th highest graded corner. But just across the board, Rashawn Gary, very good disruptor, continuously very good disruptor. Kenny Clark having kind of a little bit of a down year, but still, this defense is a lot better than all the other defenses we've played. We've talked about it week after week. The Cardinals, bad defense. And then the Patriots, bad defense. And no matter what, even though that they're they're mid with a 24.5% pressure rate, which is not great, they're still going to blitz. That what we continuously see is that people know how to disrupt a rookie quarterback, which is sending a blitz. That's what they're going to do. They're going to try and put some pressure on Caleb Williams and try to have him get the ball out quick. It's something that we saw on tape. It just continues to be Caleb is holding on the ball a touch too long. He's trying to go through everything. He's holding on to the ball long. And also, quite frankly, he's playing a little bit too, he's playing too careful with the ball. He's not, you could tell he doesn't want to turn the ball over. And because of that, he's holding onto the ball. And then the offense essentially stalls. We're not seeing this gunslinger mentality that we saw even in the early stages of the game. We're just not seeing him throw that ball out. And exactly what Taco Man's saying, we got to pick up stunts. That is something that whenever they run a stunt, whenever teams have run stunts against us, we haven't done well. But actually in the last tape review, the thing that was frustrating was it wasn't just the stunts that were causing problems. It was just the offensive line was getting beat. So hopefully with a healthier offensive line, with getting both of your offensive tackles back, hopefully we start to see just this offensive line play a little bit better and solidify against this team. Because up front they're good, right? They have the potential to really blossom because of Van Ness at defensive end, Kenny Clark, Carl Brooks, and also Rashawn Gary. So overall, their defense is really good, but it's going to come down to this offense. DJ Moore also got called out by Xavier McKinney because Xavier McKinney was saying, I've never seen a wide receiver give up on his quarterback and walk off. All true statements. Now, one could say DJ Moore was banged up, he was injured, but we all watched the games. DJ Moore with his piss poor attitude, that is something that is just hard to watch. So, Moore, do something about it. Do something about it. All the talk about potentially Tyson, some people saying that they would rather see Tyson Bagent out there from some of the players. With DJ Moore has to step up. He has to do something big. Him and Caleb have talked it over, I guess, this week. So hopefully we can see them on a better wavelength overall, because he's paid like your number one and you can't really get out of his contract. He has to build things together. But also another point that I want to bring up is that DeAndre Swift should also have a fairly good game. Yes, we talked about all the different rushing yards and stuff like that. What I'm hoping for, something that Thomas Brown can bring. Thomas Brown hopefully can help this running game, because for him, it's all about him and Chris Morgan getting on the same page. And hopefully, maybe there is something that Chris Morgan, who was from essentially a different system, going into Shane Waldron's offense, maybe there's some hiccups that he wanted to see. And so hopefully Chris Morgan can really kind of own this running game, because I know with all of this stuff, if anything goes wrong, we can 100% blame him and say, listen, this is another way that something went incorrect. And also I did see this out there because I saw some people yelling about, why didn't Chris Morgan get fired? I feel like that position is a little bit more difficult to kind of fill in mid-season, especially like if you just like to have an assistant all of a sudden be the head of the offensive line. I think that's a little bit more challenging, especially since Brown has already been an offensive coordinator. So I think that's the reason why you're not seeing Chris Morgan. That's why a lot of times not a lot of people fire position coaches midway through the season. So ultimately, this offense, it's going to just boil down to, can Swift start, like, can the line block for him, but also Swift in open field. The Packers have missed the fourth most tackles in the NFL at 74. So they do miss a lot of tackles. Hopefully Swift can take advantage of that and break some tackles. Same thing with DJ Moore. But ultimately, let's break this down. X factors. We'll do the matchup. Because to me, the biggest matchup that we're going to see here, oh man, I think the biggest matchup is going to be Jair Alexander versus DJ Moore. Like I said, DJ Moore, I feel like they're going to try and get him involved, try to kind of get a vibe going. Because if DJ Moore is happy, this offense will be happy. And so that's the thing. Like, that's what I'm hoping. Like, yeah, what Reload is saying, go crazy, DJ Moore. Like, right? That is going to be the thing. Hopefully he can do something out there and DJ can bring life into this offense and not be a little pouty person on the sidelines and on the field. So that's going to be the matchup for us to watch out for. But also when we talk about X factors, I'm going Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet always brings it during these Packer games because he understands us Bears fans, how we're so frustrated at these games, at these events. So to me, he's going to be my X factor. But let's flip over to this defense, shall we? Because the Packers offense, like I said, third highest offense when it comes down to stats, 390.6 yards per game. But from an EPA perspective, they're 12th EPA per play overall on offense, 7th most passing yards per game at 235.8, 13th EPA per pass, third most rushing yards per game at 154.8, and 10th in EPA per rush. So the stats like the Packers offense, but the advanced metrics don't really like it. They don't point to it being great. It's still something that you should be worried about, right? It's still a lot better than a lot of the other offenses that we win against. This is going to be a difficult matchup because Jordan Love is someone who is a gunslinger. Reminds me more of Brett Favre than he does of Aaron Rodgers. So a big key is the Bears need to take advantage of his mistakes. Love is going to force things. He's going to be aggressive. The Bears defense also have to be aggressive and take advantage of those mistakes. Kind of reminds me of like Drake May with last week. May's going to make mistakes. You're going to have to capitalize on that. Also, when you're looking at them, their whole strategy is the draft receivers late. So Dobbs, Reed, Watson, all of those receivers are just good, solid receivers. Tucker Kraft is also a good tight end. Just very good weapons all around. And Josh Jacobs has actually been surprising me a lot just with how well he has been playing. Good weapon out of the backfield in the run and the pass. Also, Zach Tom really coming into his own at the right tackle position, going against Sweat. He's the 9th highest graded offensive tackle according to PFF. But when you look across the board, Walker is 50th at their left tackle. Jenkins is 49th at left guard. And then Myers, 37th out of 38 centers. And also Morgan, who is going to be out, 52nd out of 77 guards. So really, it's just Zach Tom and everybody else. So to me, when you're looking at this defense, right, like we talked about, Elijah Hicks has been good. I'm looking at someone like a Jacob Martin, who has been very good, 84.1 PFF grade so far since he's come back from injury. He's been very, very good. And you're bringing in Darrell Taylor as well. And hopefully now we're not going to see Dominique Robinson out there, because Sweat's going to be having his handful against Tom. I think that left tackle spot is going to be a key. So to me, that is the biggest key for me, is that whoever's going against the left tackle, I'm looking at a Jacob Martin, I'm looking at a Darrell Taylor. That to me is my matchup going against Walker, because that will be the big piece. Other than that, Gervon Dexter, 23rd highest graded defensive interior player according to PFF. Gervon continues to have a very good season, and this is exactly what you wanted to see. Yeah, he's not the most elite. He's not the elite defensive tackle going into the second year, but this is what he is. He's got this potential. This is an amazing step that we're seeing from him, because otherwise he could look a lot like how Zach Pickens is right now, which is not good. Zach Pickens not looking good, but Gervon Dexter looking phenomenal. So let's see. Like I said, I already kind of broke down what my matchup is to watch for, but my X factor for this is going to be Kevin Byard. Kevin Byard, being the veteran that he is, and also being an aggressive safety that can get some interceptions, he's my X factor, because he's somebody that, yet again, can take advantage of those mistakes that Jordan Love makes. So to me, Byard is my X factor. I'm going to go with Darrell Taylor versus Walker at that left tackle spot as my matchup. So now, let's get into the special teams. And for the special teams review, I just feel like with this, I continue to repeat the same stuff. Torrey Taylor, you're going to be in Chicago. It's going to be windy. You're going to battle the elements. I want to see some good punts out there. I want to see some awesome stuff, because last time he was going against a Wisconsin team, he destroyed the Badgers with pinning it like always inside the 5. That's what I want to see. So hopefully he can just kind of give the Badger fans some deja vu out there. That's my key with special teams. But let's talk about who has the edge, because if we're talking about the Bears offense versus the Packer defense, I'm literally giving it all to the Packers. This offense has not been great. I think Brown can give them more of an edge, but I think that the Bears offense looks better for sure, because it can't look much worse. I think we're going to look better, but this is still a good defense. And when I go to the Bears defense versus the Packer offense, I give it to the Packers rushing attack, but I give it to the Bears pass defense. I think ultimately that's what we're going to see out there. Only the Bears pass defense has the edge. So that means everybody else has to step up. So let's get into the predictions part of our show. So let me know what you feel out there. Give me your predictions, and also give me one bold prediction that you think is going to happen during that game as well. It's like we said, this is a good team that we're going against, and also the Packers have been whooping us. And quite frankly, complete honesty, I put $20 on the Packers winning by -6.5 when it first opened, because I was like, yeah, they're going to crush us, because that's my feeling, is that I can't get my hopes up. And also, if the Packers whoop us, at least I'm like $20 richer. But if we win, then yeah, Forget $20. I don't need that. I'll take a Bears beating the Packers any day of the week. So that's what I'm going with. But let's see. We got Reload out there saying he's thinking 23-20. I love that. I'd love to see that for sure. But for me, I don't know. I said this before. I will not pick the Bears over the Packers until they do it. It's been 10 straight that we've been losing. And also, I believe it's also 10 straight covers for Green Bay. I think what we're going to see is what I hope we see. Where I hope I am wrong. I hope what we see in a good, best case scenario, we see this Thomas Brown ran offense come out. And we see that they are fighting. They go big and they hit a big DJ Moore touchdown. Right? If they can hit a big DJ Moore touchdown, I think this entire team is going to be amped. Because when something big happens on defense, who's going to be amped up? We already know that the defense is going to be good. We already know they're going to be doing something. We already know that Swift is fighting out there. We already know that he's going to be trying to lower his shoulder and try to get the yards. You need to see this passing offense do something. And if they do something, and if they look good, that's how I feel the Bears can actually win. If this passing offense can do well, it will instill confidence in this team. If not, it's going to be the same old, or like slightly better, same old. So that's what I'm going to feel with that. But I think that is ultimately how you can have the best outcome for the Bears, is having this passing attack look semi-decent. And also, I think a great way that they can do this is by just helping identify some of the blitz and get quicker developing routes, because that was another piece that we kept seeing in the tape. It was frustrating. They would send a blitz and literally all the wide receivers' backs were turned. There's nothing Caleb can do there. So yes, Caleb makes mistakes, but hopefully we can have more competent play calling. But my prediction, I think ultimately what I'm going to be going with is I'm gonna go with I'm gonna say that the Bears end up I'm gonna say the Bears end up getting 16 points. I'm gonna say 24-16 Packers end up winning. But the thing I'm afraid of is it's gonna be 32-16, just with the way that some of these go. And the Packers aren't gonna let up. You know that they're gonna be like, hey, we're gonna just keep on kicking you while you're down. But hey, that's what makes a good rivalry. Even though that, we haven't won, they're going to smother us into the ground. So hopefully we can do that as well. So win, lose, rain or shine, we'll have you covered with the best Bears coverage that's out there. So make sure to drop a like, subscribe out there on YouTube. And with that, hopefully we get the dub. And with that Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out. See ya.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a